May 8th, 2026. The Pentagon uploads 162 classified files to the open internet. Files from 1942. Files from NASA moon missions. Files from active military war zones. Files that describe objects moving at 500 miles per hour, invisible to the naked eye. Objects making 90-degree turns that should be physically impossible. A NASA astronaut in orbit who radioed back to Earth, bogey at 12 o'clock. And when a reporter asked President Trump what Americans should make of all this, he posted 2 words on social media. Have fun. That is it. Have fun. About 80 years of government UFO secrets. Today, I read every single one of these files, and I found things the mainstream media is not talking about. Stay with me, because this goes very deep. Now, this whole thing actually started with Barack Obama, not Trump. In February 2026, Obama went on a podcast and said, aliens are real, but I haven't seen them. The internet exploded. Obama tried to walk it back, but Trump saw an opening. Trump went on Truth Social and said Obama made a big mistake, possibly leaking classified information. Then he issued a directive: release everything. On May 8th, 2026, the Pentagon launched a brand new public website and dropped 162 classified files for anyone to read. No security clearance required. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said these files have long fueled justified speculation. It is time the American people see it for themselves. Sounds incredible, right? Open government, full transparency. Now let me show you what they actually released and what they are still hiding. 162 files, 120 PDF documents, 28 videos, 14 images, ranging from 1942 all the way to 2025, pulled from the Pentagon, the FBI, NASA, the State Department, and the Department of Energy. Let me go case by case, because the individual files are where things get seriously disturbing. Case 1. A NASA astronaut reports a UFO from orbit, 1965. This is the most shocking historical document in the entire release. It is a real NASA mission control transcript from the 1965 Gemini 7 mission. Astronauts Frank Borman and Jim Lovell, 2 of America's most decorated space heroes, are in orbit when Borman radios down to Earth. Bogey at 12 o'clock. Bogey. That is the military term for an unidentified aircraft. He then describes very, very many, hundreds of little particles surrounding the spacecraft. And in the margin of the official government document, handwritten by a NASA official, are 4 words. UFO sighting by Borman. Not a drunk farmer, not a conspiracy theorist, a NASA astronaut in space filing a UFO report. And the government buried it for 60 years. Case 2. 3 mystery objects on the moon, 1972. In a NASA photograph from the Apollo 17 moon mission, taken in December 1972, there are 3 bright dots arranged in a perfect triangular formation, floating in the lunar sky. Now here is what makes this explosive. The Pentagon has officially reopened this case. They retrieved the original Apollo 17 film, and their preliminary analysis states the image feature is potentially the result of a physical object in the scene. A physical object in the lunar sky that NASA photographed in 1972 and said absolutely nothing about for 54 years. Ask yourself, why would NASA stay completely silent about 3 objects in a triangular formation on the moon for over half a century? Case 3. The object that defies the laws of physics. Greece, 2024. This is the case that genuinely broke my brain. January 2024. U.S. military sensors in Greece are tracking an object. The official mission report describes it as diamond-shaped, traveling at 434 knots. That is over 500 miles per hour. And then this. The object was only visible on one specific sensor, shortwave infrared. When the operator switched to a regular visible light camera, the object completely vanished. Gone. Invisible. Then, the report says this object was making multiple 90-degree turns. Think about what that means physically. At 500 miles per hour, a 90-degree turn produces G-forces that would destroy any known aircraft and kill any human pilot instantly. The human body blacks out at 9 Gs. A sharp turn at that speed would generate over 40 Gs. Something was doing this. The U.S. military filmed it, and they still have no explanation. Case 4. Active war zone sightings. This is where it stops feeling like a mystery and starts feeling like a national security crisis. Iraq, May 2022. A military operator using infrared sensors reports 5 UAPs crossing the screen simultaneously. The Pentagon's own official comment on the case? One was a possible missile. The other 4 were labeled possible birds. Birds! On a military infrared sensor, in a combat zone, at night. Syria, July 2022. A UAP tracked moving north to south. The operator followed it as long as possible. Never identified. United Arab Emirates, October 2023. An object tracked for nearly 5 full minutes on military sensors. It kept disappearing and reappearing. No identification made. The U.S. military has active UAP sightings in Iraq, Syria, UAE, Greece, and Africa, in some of the most heavily monitored airspace on the entire planet. And their official answer, in every single case, is the same. We do not know what it is. Now here is where the story changes completely, and this is what no mainstream outlet is giving proper attention to. Of the 162 files released, 108 of them contain redactions. That is exactly 2/3 of the entire release, still blacked out, still classified. The Pentagon's explanation? They redacted information to protect the identity of witnesses, the locations of government facilities, and sensitive military information. They also issued this very precise legal statement. Listen carefully. No redactions have been made concerning information about the nature or existence of any encounter. Think about that very carefully. They are saying, we did not black out what the objects are, but they absolutely did black out where the encounters happened, who witnessed them, and what military context surrounded them. So we know that something was seen, but not the full where or who or why. That is not transparency. That is controlled leaking. Now, buried deep in the historical section of these files is a document that should have ended this entire debate 80 years ago. It is called the Twining Memo. Written in 1947 by General Nathan Twining, one of the highest-ranking military commanders in American history. He later became chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the most senior military position in the United States. In this internal military memo, General Twining wrote, and I want you to hear this clearly because this is a real, official U.S. government document. The UAP phenomenon is something real. and not visionary or fictitious. 1947. The most powerful military general in America told the government in writing that UFOs are real. And the government classified that memo and hid it from the public for 79 years. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is a documented fact that is now sitting on a government website for anyone to read. Here is one more number that tells the whole story. Between May 2023 and June 2024 alone, just 13 months, the Pentagon's own Anomaly Resolution Office received 757 new UAP reports from military personnel. 757 reports in 1 year from trained pilots, sensor operators, and military professionals who know exactly what drones, balloons, satellites, and weather phenomena look like. And the government released 162 total files. The Pentagon itself has said there are tens of millions of records still under review. 162 have been released. That is less than 0.1% of what exists. We are seeing the tip of an iceberg so large, we can't even measure its base. Now, I want to ask 4 questions, because I think these matter more than any individual case file. Question 1. Why release this now? A 2025 Pew Research poll found that only 17% of Americans trust the government to do the right thing, near the lowest level in 70 years of polling. Public trust is collapsing. Releasing UFO files right now, with dramatic website launches and presidential social media posts, is a masterclass in performing transparency, while controlling exactly how much is actually revealed. The redactions guarantee the sensitive truth stays classified. The spectacle guarantees the public feels satisfied. So the question is not why they release these files. The question is, what are they distracting you from? Question 2. Why only infrared? This detail is being completely ignored by every major outlet. Every single military UAP video in this release was captured on infrared cameras. The U.S. military operates vastly more regular visible light cameras than infrared ones. Cockpit cameras, surveillance systems, all visible light. So why are UAPs almost exclusively being caught on infrared? Either these objects are genuinely invisible to normal cameras, which is terrifying, or the military is selectively releasing only infrared footage because it is blurry, ambiguous, and harder to identify, which means this release is deliberately manipulated. Both answers are deeply disturbing. Question 3. Why are objects appearing in active war zones? Iraq, Syria, UAE, Greece, Africa. These are not remote deserts or civilian airports. These are active military operation zones, some of the most surveilled, monitored, and defended airspace on the planet. If unknown objects are appearing repeatedly in these zones, and the military cannot identify them after years of sightings, either our surveillance technology has a massive blind spot we never knew about, or something is intentionally operating inside military airspace, and we cannot stop it. Here is the honest truth after reading all 162 files. This release does not prove aliens exist. I want to be completely clear about that. But here is what it absolutely does prove. A 4-star U.S. general in 1947 formally documented that UAPs are real and not imaginary. And that was hidden for 79 years. A NASA astronaut in 1965 reported an unidentified object from orbit, and that was hidden for 60 years. A 1972 moon mission photographed 3 objects in triangular formation in the lunar sky, and NASA said nothing for 54 years. In 2024, U.S. military sensors tracked an object at 500 miles per hour that was invisible to normal cameras and could make turns that would instantly kill any human pilot. And 2/3 of the files that were released are still redacted. The government's own official position, stated clearly on their own website, is that these are unresolved cases for which they cannot make a definitive determination. That means the most powerful military apparatus in human history, with trillions of dollars in surveillance technology, is officially telling you, we do not know what these things are. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is the United States government's own conclusion, in their own words, on their own website. The next batch of files drops June 7th. I will analyze every single one. Comment below right now. Do you think the government is hiding something real? Or is this all one giant distraction? I genuinely want to know what you think. See you on June 7th. Subscribe for next.